So today's lesson we're going to have some fun and experiment with painting and mark making, but without actually using paints and paintbrushes. There are lots of things we can use around the home, such as in these jars there is some fruit tea in the first jar, some hot chocolate, coffee and normal tea, which all make really good materials for painting with. So what kind of thing could we find around the house to possibly use as a tool to create some painting and mark making? We've got straws, there's some foliage from the garden, a paintbrush that I happen to have lying around, a pastry brush from the cutlery drawer, and even some old twigs from the very dead plants that are out in the garden at the moment at this time of year. And all of these can make some really interesting marks. It's all about just experimenting, trying things out, see what marks they make on the page. See if you can find some really interesting things to try as tools. I'm going to show you how to try different things out and mark make on your page, and your task is to create a really interesting and varied mark making page. So here we have some string just dipped in some coffee. The coffee I made is very strong because you want that really nice dark deep colour. I've used some foliage dipped in some hot chocolate, and again you can see it's making completely different marks. If you drag it on the page it will give you a completely different mark than if you dab it onto the page. You'll see a straw blowing coffee around the page. You can try actually using cotton buds to give you some dot making marks, but that will also give you a nice thick paintbrush too. See how many things you can find around the house or in the garden that you could use to create some really good marks on the page. Try and find a varied range of things you could use as paint. I mean, I've used coffee, tea, hot chocolate. You could also use beetroot juice, orange juice, food colouring. There are many things that you can use to create your own paints at home. So be really inventive, think outside the box a little bit and see what you can come up with. So remember to annotate on the page so you can remember which tools made which particular patterns and which medium it was that you were using. Was it tea, was it coffee, was it hot chocolate? And try to jot down and note down all of the different tools that you used. So task 2 of today's lesson is for you to create an interesting background page. This background page is going to be prepared this week, and then it's going to be ready for you to use in your next lesson in 2 weeks' time. So by now, with all your experimenting, you will know how the different materials that you've chosen work on the page and the tools that you've used, what kind of marks they make, and you're going to pull all this knowledge together and you're going to create a really interesting background page. This is going to be worked into at a later date. This is why you really need to make sure that this stage is done on this week's lesson. It needs to dry, and in 2 weeks' time at your next lesson you should have a nice working page ready to go. Make it interesting. Try out different tools that you've chosen. You may just want to use just tea or just coffee, or you might want to use lots of different materials all joined together. You will be drawing and painting on top of it, so just bear that in mind so that it's not too dark, otherwise you won't be able to see your drawing in your next lesson. When you have completed both of these tasks, don't forget to upload your work, whatever stage it's at the end of the lesson, because you can always work into it in your own time if you haven't quite finished. And more importantly, get creative, experiment and have fun and enjoy the task. I have to say, the page that I've created here at home smells absolutely lovely. It smells of coffee and hot chocolate, and I'm sure your pages are going to be really amazing too. So we really look forward to seeing your work. Have fun and enjoy.